Hello everyone, I'm here to give you a quick tutorial on oral citations today. Oral citations are part of the larger question of public speaking ethics, which you will read about in your textbook and which includes a lot more than just citing your sources. Ethics are a part of the question when you're picking your topic and how you're going to deliver your speech. Really every step along the way, there are ethics questions for you to think about. But today I'm going to just talk about giving your oral citations in your speech because this is a requirement and because a lot of students struggle with this in the beginning. So it's important when you are giving your speech to represent evidence responsibly. You have done research on your speech, you found some credible sources, and when you're delivering your speech presentation, you want to make sure that you are representing all that research to your audience so that you can show that you are being a thoughtful and responsible public speaker that enhances your ethos. So some ways that you can do that include presenting quotations and data fairly. That means that if you have a direct quote or some numbers to share, you want to make sure that, first of all, you get them right. So if you're directly quoting somebody, get all the words right, get all the numbers right, but also that you use those direct quotes and numbers in the same spirit that they were intended to be used in, and you're not sort of cherry picking your evidence or using it in a way that is against how it was originally meant to be used. The other big way that you can represent your evidence responsibly is by giving a complete oral citation. We do this because it adds credibility. That means it shows your ethos as a speaker. You're showing your work to the audience so they know that you did your research. It avoids plagiarism, which is definitely possible. You can plagiarize out loud just as much as you can plagiarize on a sheet of paper. And it also shows the timeliness of your sources if you're speaking about a topic where it's important to have timely sources, like if you need to show data on some currently evolving phenomenon. Also remember that you have to have oral citations as a part of your grade. So this is the informative speech grading rubric, and you'll see that if you're missing your oral citations, you get a big ding on your grade. You can't get higher than a 7. So you need to have at least 3 oral citations of credible sources in your speech. So what is an oral citation? An oral citation is just saying your source out loud. And you want to think about sort of 3 things when you're coming up with your oral citation. First, you're going to have an introductory phrase or a signal phrase. This is very similar to citing sources in an essay, where you might just say, according to, or in their June 2020 article in this publication. And when you add that introductory phrase or that signal phrase, you're letting the audience know to listen up because you're about to tell them some source information that they might want to know if they want to go find that. Speaking of which, you need to include enough information for the audience to actually go find that source themselves. So you might consider including the author names, publication date, the title of the article or publication. And you don't necessarily always need to include all of these things, but you want to make sure that you give enough information that your audience could go actually find that source if they wanted to look it up for themselves. And then you want to also think about what you can say about your source to show that it's credible. And some ways that you can do that are to talk about the author's credentials, if that seems appropriate, keeping in mind that what makes someone credible is field dependent. So if you have Dr. Smith giving advice about back pain, but Dr. Smith is actually a dentist, that's not a credible source, right? And then publication credibility can also be all that you need to show that something is credible. So if it's published in a peer-reviewed scholarly journal, you might want to just indicate the journal name because that sort of lends credibility in and of itself. So let's come up with an oral citation. Let's say that we want to include this data about people being killed in distracted driving car accidents. And this is where we got it from. So if we've done our research, we put together our outline, we have this complete MLA citation at the end. And this has all the information that we need to figure out what should go in our oral citation. So maybe I would try to say, according to NHTSA, 3,142 people were killed in car crashes involving distracted drivers in 2019. Do you think that that's a good oral citation? Does it have an introductory phrase, enough info for the audience to go find it, and does it sound credible? Well, this is pretty close. I mean, it sounds pretty legit, right? But what is NHTSA? Do you know that? I mean, maybe if we back up one slide and look at our source again, but remember when you're giving your speech out loud, your audience can't look at your sources. They can't look at your outline. They don't really know what's coming next. So you have to make sure that the actual words you say out loud are enough for them to know what you're talking about. So in this case, I would say we can do better, because if you don't say what NHTSA is, that's not really going to help your audience know if that's a credible source or know where to go find that information. So let's try again. According to the Department of Transportation, 3,142 people were killed in car crashes involving distracted drivers in 2019. What do you think? I would say that this one solves the problem of actually spelling out the source. So the Department of Transportation, we can go find that maybe, and the Department of Transportation sounds like a credible source, right? It's a national agency. We believe that that's credible. But the Department of Transportation is this big agency, right? Like, where exactly did you get this number from? If I sort of was an objecting listener and I thought that sounds way too low, there have to be more than that, and I wanted to go look that up, what would I search for? Department of Transportation? Is it on their website? Did I read that in a flyer at the DMV? We don't know. So we don't know where to go get that information still, even though now the source sounds more credible. So I would say we can still do a little bit better. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration website, 3,142 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers in 2019. So this has everything we need. We have our signal phrase, right, which we had in all of these, according to. We have a credible source, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. That's a national agency. It's part of the DOT. And we've indicated just a little bit where you can find that. It's just on the website for this particular agency. And here, this information that I found was right on the front page of their website. So we don't need to go any further into that. So all of these are verbal citations, and there are just better ways to do them so that you make sure that you give your audience the information they need. Okay. So now, in addition to making verbal citations in your own speech, you're going to be peer reviewing 3 of your classmates. And that means that you'll have to listen for their citations as well, because you want to be able to give them feedback on whether their citations were good. So I want you to listen to the first 12 seconds or so of this video and see if you can hear the citation.
There are many components of feng shui, the most important of which is qi. According to Sarah Rosbach, author of the book Feng Shui, The Chinese Art of Placement, qi is defined as the energy flow that connects all things, and it has a profound impact on our lives.
Did you catch that? It happened really fast in the beginning of the speech, but she had that according to signal phrase. And so that's when you know you need to listen and hear if that was a credible source or not. So let's listen to that again and then try and tell if that sounds like a credible source. Could you go find that information?
There are many components of feng shui, the most important of which is qi. According to Sarah Rosbach, author of the book Feng Shui, The Chinese Art of Placement, qi is defined as the energy flow that connects all things, and it has a profound impact on our lives.
Okay.
Simon Brown describes.
We have this citation. According to Sarah Rosbach, author of the book Feng Shui, The Chinese Art of Placement, qi is defined as the energy flow that connects all things. We have a signal phrase. That's how you know to start listening. We think that this source is credible because she wrote a book on the topic. If we weren't sure about that level of credibility, we could maybe go further into it and talk about her credentials or something like that. And then we know where to find that citation. It's in this book that this person wrote. And the data that we're sharing is this definition of qi. So this has just been a very quick tutorial on how to do oral citations in your speech. Remember that you have to have at least 3 of these in your speech. And there are also some additional resources on our course site. So if you go to our course website and you go to either week 2 or week 3, I put it in both places, you'll see a link here about how to evaluate source credibility, cite sources in your outline, and verbally cite sources in your speech. And there are some additional resources here. So this first video is about evaluating your sources for credibility. Then this next link takes you to the Purdue OWL website, which will help you with your MLA citations in your outline. And then here's a library guide about verbal citations. This is what I was talking about in my video, where there is an instructional video, which sort of shows you like how to do oral citations, which is a little bit of what I'm doing in this video. And then here's that video example that I was just using. I also have a little video here about the difference between the written citations in the outline and verbal citations in the speech. So you have a lot of resources available to you. Please remember that you need to have 3 verbal citations in your speech. And I look forward to hearing your speeches.